Hi, everybody. It's Brian Mahony, President and CEO of Trender Research and President of the OTT Executive Community. We're continuing with our OTT Executive Podcast. Our executive today is Donna Drake, who's President of Drake Media Networks and the host of The Donna Drake Show. Donna, welcome.
Hello, Brian. It's so good to see you again. Thank you very much for the invitation.
So we a couple of years ago, I think you came to the OTT Executive Summit as a speaker. Is that right?
I did. And that was very exciting and happy to sponsor that. You have such a breadth of connections that I wanted to be in the room. I'm like, Brian knows everybody and I've got to be there. So it was exciting. So thank you for that.
Okay. So before we get into what you're doing right now, just give us a quick background on yourself and your business.
Sure. I grew up in St. Louis. I moved to the East Coast 30 years ago. I have always been someone that cares about communication. Started out in high school doing the morning announcements, traveled as a kid singing in a patriotic singing group, and that turned into someone that just likes doing video content. So I've kind of grown up from every type of thing, like whether it was 1-inch beta tape or the old school things. And I also was a graphic artist before computers hit. So did PageMaker and things like that. So I've always had this duality, if you will, as an artist, a computer graphics advertising kid, as well as a performer. And those blended together, went to college, moved to New York, and then started my career working in the exact same building that I now own and have a television studio. So that's basically, that's it. I'm still the same person I was growing up in St. Louis. It's just that I have like a big playhouse now that I get to call my own, and that's the history.
That is so cool. So you start.
2 minutes surrender. I think I did okay.
No, it's great. You're the first person that went back to high school when you were doing the morning announcements. And that was your first experience with a microphone, right?
Yes.
Oh, that is so funny. Well, great. Well, listen, I want to talk about what you're doing now. I saw your flyer about your kind of hosted TV show and kind of like white label approach and stuff. Very exciting. And it touches into a lot of the things that I find interesting around OTT and streaming and sort of this new model of content creation, which really in a lot of ways democratizes the whole, supply chain and process of creating content. Tell us what you're up to now, please.
I've always been a very positive person, and I really believe in writing yourself a permission slip. A lot of the times what holds us back is that we think we need someone else to hire us, to do something for us or whatever, and we're in the waiting room. Instead, I've created this opportunity even for myself, like had my own TV show now, Brian, for 15 years, wow, which came to me in a dream, and then I kept manifesting on it. So if someone like me can do it, I knew other people could do it. What's interesting and what I developed is that over the course of 15 years, I've interviewed over 15,000 people. I have a television show that I interview celebrities, business owners, nonprofit organizations. I know now the process. Mm-hmm. I know the process of being an independent, self-producing something, getting the distribution, whether it's, sponsored time, things like that. And then all of a sudden, about 2 weeks ago, Brian, I realized that I have my own TV show. Now I have my own studio where I'm producing like some things for Discovery, TLC. And then I thought, there's so many people out there that maybe had to take a survival job, or maybe they've always wanted they have a great idea or they've got great talent and they want to share it, but they're just simply doing it from the basement of their house. Mm-hmm. I own the equipment. I know the process. I thought, what if I decided to open up the floodgate? What if I open this up? So I decided I was going to greenlight 50 new shows, 50 new TV shows, and I was going to walk them through the process of, this is how you're going to set it up. This is how you're going to be able to get sponsors. I'm going to provide the distribution for them, almost like turnkey, if you will, right? Mm-hmm. So that when you walk through the gates of Drake Media Studios, I'm taking care of that new show, just like I take care of a guest. Right? A lot of my guests, Brian, have never been on television before. But once they're here, I put them in good hands and I can care for them. So the same way that people are buying segments on my show and I'm helping them is the exact same way now I'm going to be able to take that person and help them create their own television show. And it is a process, but it's the 20 years of experience of me doing it that will allow me to help others. A lot of times people think, oh yeah, I'm going to have my own show. I'm just going to, like I said, do it in their basement, or I don't think that has a lot of longevity. And it's also not as much fun. When you come to a studio and you have the right access to the cameras and to the lights and to the editing equipment and to those things, it becomes a really nice, enriching experience, because we have show hosts coming in and out of here. They've built a whole community. And that's basically it. So when I dream something, I have to say yes. Like, it's like an addiction, a good addiction, where it's almost like a responsibility to the universe, Brian. And I don't mean to like, oh, I'm so great. I'm not. But what happens is I have that responsibility now. I have this vision, and I know that I'm meant to be a conduit for others. I've been given talent, access, creativity. And now I'm like, okay, well, now what are you going to do with it? I'm like, all right, well, let's do this. And when I put it out there, the response has been tremendous, and I'm excited. So thank you for noticing. Someone like you, I really appreciate it, because you are, you got that heartbeat of the OTT world right at your thumb. So if you're excited about it, that even excites me more, because that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to create something that is different and useful.
Yeah, well, I definitely think you're onto something. Kudos to you. And I love the fact that, you recognize you've been doing your show for 15 years. Your experience goes way back further than that. And in a way, you're kind of giving back. Hopefully you're profiting from this venture as well. How is it so far? How has the response been?
I made it very cost effective. So the entry point is like $2,500. And for $2,500, they get 2 hours of, it includes everything. It's just a complete package.
So you get studio time,
and you get the studio time, the engineer. They're going to get a high def digital backdrop, because they have all these interactive extended reality sets that they're going to get. And I'm very joyful about that. And then we're going to edit it all up for them, and we're going to put it up, and we're going to promote them, and they're going to get to have that content. And it's a variety of different businesses that are already have said yes. People that, like I said, that have always wanted to, but just didn't know how. And I'm giving them the how. They have the why, because they have something important to say, and I'm providing the rest.
So let's geek out a little bit. I want to talk about your tech stack and your ecosystem. Let's break this down a little bit. What platform
so
are you using?
So in our podcasting room, we do have all those digital sets, right? It's fiber optic cable. We're using Canon 80D cameras. We also have a 4K camera here. A lot of different lights, because when you're using green screen technology, as you know, lighting is key. You got to light the green screen. You got to light the subject in order for it to keep properly. I also own this really cool, it's like $25,000 box. It's called it's a live stream box, right? And we call it Big Bertha. And Big Bertha was meant to be able to do in-studio switching, like a TriCaster, right? So all of these cameras through the fiber optics go into our control room. And then we have the monitors, and we have the nice Rode kind of audio mixer, and we have Sennheiser microphones. So it's professional equipment. We have trained engineers. They edit it all together. So we're like live switching their show also. So it takes down the amount of editing and editing. I bought the new Mac Studio, like the Cube. I think that was like $5,000, but it's a powerhouse. So it takes it, the rendering time is less. And I mean, I'm not like giving a promotional shout out or anything. This is not,
that's fine. Hey, we're
a paid endorsement. It's just what we use, right? It's the tools that we have here. And that's made a nice difference too. So the editors are like, whoa, that like, they can do things faster. They can put more layers on it. And we're using programs like Premiere, or, some people use Final Cut. So the engineers I have, the entire staff, they're all freelancers, all 1099s. So depending on what the project is, I'll bring in like this plethora of like 30 different key individuals. And that's what we're doing. That's what we're using. That's the technology behind it.
And how about remote capabilities? Someone wanted to do a show, but they can't actually be in your studio. How do you work with them?
Same thing. So the technology is I can have up to 4 remote guests on at any one time. So one of the shows we're doing is pretty exciting. There's an NFL training camp in Atlanta, and there's a physical therapist here in Queens, because we're filming this. I'm in Long Island, New York. So anyway, when I say here, I meant like right there. Anyway, so they're going to be remote guesting. They're going to be able to hear and talk to the patients at the NFL football camp, and they're going to be able to hear each other. My technician is the only person that's here. It's going to have this big, beautiful set behind them, and we're going to put the whole thing together. So people don't actually even need to physically be in my studio for my technology to work.
That is fantastic. And again, I think this goes back to the whole sort of thrust around, democratizing content creation. Let's talk about distribution a little bit. What avenues do you have to, once the content is created beautifully using all your technology, how do you get it out there? And, you have the experience there, but how do you actually get the content out and find distribution or syndication?
One of the nice things about having a career and the longevity that I've had in this space is that you meet friends along the way. So while I was busy building my television show, I had other friends that were busy doing other things in the industry. And it's a matter of having those connections, that trusted thing where you can actually be a resource for each other. So now, because I have friends that have also been successful I was able to make a few phone calls. And so I said, I wanted, in addition to my distribution that I have on CBS here in New York, I wanted to put my own content on an OTT platform. And when I chose that, decided not to just be able to stream my own show, but I opened up a whole network, all these different categories, whether it's wellness, sports, nutrition, things like that. So the distribution portal that I'm using, which is Indavo, Binge Networks.
I know them, quite well.
Yes, I say it's Drake Media Network, powered by Binge, strategically aligned with Indavo. So it's like this whole big, it's like, I never got a chance to be in a sorority, or fraternity or anything. So in a way, the people that I work with now, or the people that I know in our industry, it feels like that. It feels so good to be able to call and say, I want to do this. And they're like, oh yeah, well, we could do this or this or this, or the other thing, and even Paul Ham, who runs Indavo, can't wait to fly up to see my new studio, because it's just so great. Like, he doesn't have to have a studio because I have the studio, and I don't have to have that OTT engine because he has all of the servers and the technology and the things that do that.
Yeah, he's got it all figured out for sure.
Yeah, he's got it all figured out. So when you surround yourself with the people that have it all figured out, then you're able to give the greatest value to the client. You're able to give that greatest thing, like, this is my team. These are my resources. This is what I can provide. And I think just bringing value time after time is why people will choose to work with a person or not. So, and like I said earlier today when we were talking, I'm having fun. I'm having the time.
That's what it's all about at the end of the day, right? You got to be having fun.
Yeah. So that's what we're doing. We're creating these new shows. One of our shows that's very successful is called Soul Free, with Harlan Friedman. And he's a sneaker geek. He loves the sneaker culture. So we recently, and music. So we recently had Run DMC in our studio here. And we did a whole hour-long vodcast, because it's also video. And it was Harlan's show. So it's Harlan is the host. It's the digital backdrop. It's the excellent guest. And then Harlan had another guest remote in. We edited it all together, and that's going to be going up this weekend. So that's going to be great content. And it's fun to see Harlan's face when he knows he has his own show. And when he's like, oh yeah, I host Soul Free, it's cool. To me, that's when you asked earlier, am I the wealthiest person in the world? No, but I am the wealthiest person when it comes to that feel-good reason of wanting to wake up. And yes, I have a beautiful home and a nice car. And, I travel, Brian, I travel for free. Like, people invite me to go places. So my lifestyle might look like I'm like this queen of all this, like, oh, she's a millionaire. But I'm a millionaire in my spirit.
Good for you. And you have
more
wonderful
like a billionaire.
Yeah. And I know you have a wonderful family too. We were talking in the green room, the virtual green room, about our kids. Let's talk a little bit. I want to shift gears and talk about the process of capturing and telling the storytelling. So we talked a little bit about the tech stack, but when you work with these, would you call them customers, clients, partners, how do you help them shape? Because everybody has to tell a story. Actually, first of all, do you think that we're saturated with that, right? There's so much content out there right now that viewers are potentially overwhelmed, and we're adding to the pipeline here of content. So maybe answer that question first, and then we can talk a little bit about how you work with leveraging your experience with your customers on the process of capturing and telling the story.
I think stories need to be concise now. There are a plethora. My show's now an hour, but during that hour of my show, you're getting a 6 to 10 minute little vignette of different stories. I think people are, they want content, but they want it in those shorter little consumable bites, because if they're bored or they get bored, they just want to go on to the next thing, right? So I think that there's plenty of room for all the stories, because we still have the same amount of hours in a day. However we choose to have them. You're going to maybe eat 3 meals, you're going to sleep in a bed, your waking hours might be 12 to 15 hours. How are you going to use them? So I think that there are different ways that people, some people are just sports. They could watch sports all day long, right? Some people just love cooking shows. So I think that we're not inundated with too much content. It's just a matter of making it more specific and making it in usable, concise bites.
Yeah, I mean, good answer there. I think you're right. We need to have things, and it depends on the distribution method, right? Just in looking at this podcast, the way you capture content for YouTube versus, Audible is totally different. So, and who the target market is as well. So that's all really interesting. Where do you think the industry is going? If you just kind of put your big picture hat on, you look at streaming, we've seen some consolidation, we've seen some retraction, or at least plateauing on some of the sort of adoption numbers for some of the big players. We're seeing layoffs even. Where is your crystal ball looking? I mean, obviously, this is kind of a downer question to ask when you're launching something new and exciting, but where do you see things going over the next, let's say, year or two?
Okay, I was voted the most optimistic of my senior class in high school. Let's just bring it right back to high school. Okay. But yeah, Brian, this is it. I mean, what you see is what you get. I am always going to find the silver lining. I don't even know what to say about that, but I'm eternally optimistic. Yeah. So I feel like even the metaverse, like I'm sticking my foot in there, right? I'm playing along. I didn't put thousands and thousands into Bitcoin. I put like $500 in, right? And I'm playing around with it. I'm an early adapter of technology. I am someone that sees a value in it. I also feel like it keeps me young. Chronologically, I'm 50, going to be 58 this year in June. Oops.
Can't say that online.
I know. Well, women don't tell their age. I do. Okay. But I skew 42. So I feel like the industry is going to go wherever the industry will allow it to go. There's people like this new immersive studio that I just built. It's 280 degrees. One of the reasons that I built it is that sometimes people that are on the autism spectrum, they like doing the video games, but they might not like the headset, right? So I've built this room, this new Psychwall studio. One of the reasons is that I want to provide an opportunity for people that are on the spectrum to go in and be able to play video games. Like you can push down on this pedal. We have all these props, and you can actually drive through the walls, Brian, and you could go on a safari. So somebody that might not ever get their driver's license, we have the technology to be able to do that. So I think the industry in television, content creation, creativity, experiential learning, it's going to go wherever it's going to go. And I think it behooves us to grasp onto it, to try new things, to invent, to create. Because if you're not someone that stays current or knowledgeable about things, you might as well still be using the paper phone book.
Yeah. That's a good answer. I mean, I think
stay up.
Yeah, you got to stay up, and you can't be daunted by what's going on around you. If you really truly passionately believe in what you're doing, as you are right now. I mean, I've been tracking this industry for 15 years, and I've seen so many companies come, some go, some get acquired in a good way. But I remember at some point folks saying, "Oh, we've reached peak TV, peak streaming, peak everything, or, I mean, at one point we were tracking new streaming apps, and there were like 20 or 30. And then at 300, it sort of exploded. And I think we stopped tracking, when it got like 800 plus. So, and that's the point, is there's a lot of great content ideas out there. It's all about finding the right audience. And in streaming, you can find a global audience very, very quickly, right? Because we have all these new rules. We've broken down barriers across countries. I mean, look what's going on in Europe right now. So good for you. Kudos. Stick to your guns. And yeah, I love what you're doing. So, we like to personalize these podcasts and, learn from leaders in the industry, but also learn a little bit about them. Is there something you can share, a hobby, an interest, something that people may not know about you that they might find interesting?
A hobby or an interest? I do love to travel. I mean, I really love to travel. But what ends up happening is when I travel, I realize that I can also create content. So am I really traveling, or am I just still working? I don't know. But one thing that I find that people might not know about me is the fact that I did grow up singing in a patriotic singing group called the Futures of America. And my favorite song is the national anthem, and I sing it really well. And when I karaoke, my go-to karaoke song is Gloria Gaynor's "I Will Survive." And when I got an opportunity to interview her, and she was a guest on my show, I was wondering, I'm like, do I tell her she's my go-to karaoke song? And I did, and she had the best laugh. So that's something that not a lot of people, would know about me.
Yeah, and oh my goodness, the Star Spangled Banner and a lot of those patriotic songs, they're actually kind of hard to sing, right? America Be Beautiful.
You have to have a pretty good range, yeah. When some of those notes are pretty high, and it's just a matter of, I guess, just joy. And even when you watch my CBS television show here in New York, there's a girl named Riza Osby, and she did a version of the national anthem that's so beautiful. And it plays because they placed it right before my show. So it's almost like the opening to my show. But there's just certain things that I like about it. It just makes me, I'm a global person. I'm very global. I feel like I grew up in St. Louis. I live in New York, but I'm really a woman of the universe, a woman of the globe. But there's just something about that song that just makes me feel like joyful.
Yeah, great. Well, listen, kudos to you. Let's keep in touch. I really love what you're doing. I don't know, maybe I have some show ideas for you, right?
Brian, come on over. You get right from the comfort of your own home. You could be the next host on whatever the show it is that you want greenlit. I'm just going to be a yes to you. All right. I said 50 shows. So now there's 49 left. So.
Oh, okay, great. Maybe we could do like a documentary where we show the whole progress of creating the content. Well, this is a cool idea, right? That could be a show in and of itself, but, leveraging your studio and your distribution. I think that would be something our listeners would be very interested in following. So.
Well, you're always welcome at my table. And thank you for welcoming me into your show. Because usually I'm the one interviewing people. So I don't really like to be on the hot seat, but you make me very comfortable. So thank you.
Well, you're great. You're great on your feet, and keep doing what you're doing. So thanks for your time today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Brian. Happy journeys to you. Be well.
Donna Drake from the Donna Drake Show and Drake Media Networks. This is Brian Mahony once again for OTT Executive Podcast. Signing off, everybody. Have a great day.